Hello and welcome to episode 172 of the Casual Try Hard podcast. I'm Bryan,
And I'm James.
and today we're going to do a little bit of draft help for James.
Yeah. Oh boy, do I need it. I incinerated a whole bunch of golden gems over the weekend.
And then we're going to talk about some Explorer decks that I put together when the format was first announced and what we've seen in the queues this past week now that the format's live.
Yeah, if you guys remember, we kind of talked about Explorer a little bit last week and mentioned that there was some content we didn't get to. So part of this episode is going to be that content we didn't get to, talking about some of the decks that we've seen, we've been playing, stuff like that.
Yeah, so if you want to get at us anywhere on social media, all of our links are in the description below.
Yeah.
So get on there and talk to us.
Absolutely, especially our Discord. Discord invite link is in the description. Hit that up and head on over and join in the conversation with all the rest of our wonderful listeners. Don't forget, if you guys are looking to support the show a little bit, we would really appreciate it if you used our TCG Player affiliate link. If you're looking to pick up any singles from New Capenna or from Kamigawa, or if you're looking to pick up any stuff for Explorer or Pioneer or whatever format you're trying to get into building a deck for, tcg.casualtryhardmtg.com is the link. Follow that link. As long as that's how you got to TCG Player, whatever you do will help support the show. We'll get credit for your purchase. So we would really appreciate that. And if you guys like what we're doing and you want to support the show a little bit more directly, you can head on over to patreon.com/casualtryhardmtg and chip a couple bucks in. Like I said, help the show out a little bit more directly if you really like our content. Well, we kind of know you do, but patrons get access to our show notes. They get access to more of us in the pre-show. About roundabouts an hour of extra content every week. It's admittedly nothing earth-shattering. It's kind of just us catching up for the week and talking about the show and stuff. But it's more of us if you're into us. You also get put on my mailing list. Every couple months, I usually send out a swag pack to our patrons. If you want to get put on that list, sign up for Patreon. Patreon.com/casualtryhardmtg. Also, we're doing our tournament. Our next one is planned for Saturday, May 14th at 7 p.m. East Coast time. Same format. It's going to be standard pauper. So any card that's been printed at common in a standard legal set is going to be legal for this tournament. Kind of just like last time. We are opening up the doors a little bit. I think we got a couple of our listeners are going to help promote it a little bit, and I made the tournament public on MTG Melee, so should have a little bit bigger turnout than last time, which hopefully will be a good thing. If you want to sign up, mtgmelee.com, either search Casual Tryhard MTG, or you can just go to Pauper. I think last time I checked, there was only a handful of tournaments there, and we were one of them. So head on over there and sign up. I don't think anything else for the tournament, but we do have our YouTube channel, and we have been putting more effort into getting like an actual show together for YouTube. So if you want to do more than just hear our voices, if you want to, look at some visual aids or this super awesome like spinning logo Bryan made, head on over. Head on over to YouTube and check out the YouTube version of this show.
And if you're on YouTube, because it's a new set, I have 13 drafts queued up and recorded. A draft every single day.
Yeah.
For you to watch. They range from me killing it to me getting killed, and you can watch the expression of my face change depending on how the draft is going. It is great.
Yep. I love you, buddy, but you're a riot to watch when you get tilted.
Oh, there were definitely a few that I was just like I got nothing. I don't understand what's going on here.
Yeah.
So those are all there for you.
Yeah. So speaking of drafts, what do you got for me, man? I did not do well. I think the best draft I had was a 3-3, and I'm probably 5 in, and I gave up. Like, I had so many 1-3s that could not put my finger on this format.
Okay, so I have slid into my normal I I just got there yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
My normal 57-ish% win rate.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm at like 56 right now, 13 drafts in. And the format is doing what I thought it was gonna do, like right at the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
And it is kind of broke into two things. So it kind of reminds me of Keldheim right now,
Okay.
where Keldheim you had the 1 mana 1/2 flying first strike bird thing,
Mm-hmm.
and like you were just like red white aggro,
Mm-hmm.
or you were like 5-color snow,
Yeah.
right? And if you were mid rangey and you got paired against one of the 5-color snow decks, you got buried
Right.
because they just had all the value. And if you were the 5-color snow deck, you got run over by the aggro deck. So like the mid-range decks kind of got pushed out because they always got gone over the top of,
Mm-hmm.
and so that just left these two poles. This format feels similar.
Okay.
Once as like the 3, 4, 5-color pile of just whatever good cards you have,
Mm-hmm.
once you like get to turn like 5 or 6 and like you're not dead, you can usually just annihilate the aggro decks.
Yeah.
Right? Just accrue so much value that it doesn't matter what they're doing.
Yeah. One of the
Right.
things we said when we did our our set review episode is a lot of times these multicolor focused sets, the multicolor cards are really powerful because they're so hard to cast. So even if you're just taking like the 3-color commons, they're usually just better than anything that somebody that's running like a monocolor or a 2-color, deck is going to be doing.
Oh, is it Sparrow's Adjudicators? Like a 5-mana 4/4 that just like pacifies a creature for a turn.
Mm-hmm.
Right, that card's just amazing. Like I've had games where I have like 2 of them and then a clone, and it's just like, well, you can't attack for the next 3 turns.
Yeah.
And now I have 12 power, and now I'm stable. You can't win.
Yeah.
So you've got these big decks, and then you have like the other end of this is like the aggressive decks, and the aggressive decks in this format are basically there's 3 of them.
Mm-hmm.
There's blue white and green white, where green white is citizen based,
Mm-hmm.
and like they have the green white 2/3 that if you tap a citizen it becomes a 3/3 lifelinker for 2 mana. Right, like that card's just like really hard to block.
Yeah.
Early in the game, and right, it's also giving them life. So if you're also an aggressive deck, you're just like, oh, they gained 6 life this game. I'm not going to be able to race them anymore.
Yeah.
Right. Blue white is like a flyers deck where they are able to like play some like reasonably costed flyers, usually at like 3 mana, and then like a couple bounce spells like a run out of town or hold for ransom. Like hold for ransom is just pacifism if you don't let them get to 7 mana, and like that deck's trying to let you get to 7 mana. And then you have the blitz deck with like Girder Goons and Plasma Jockey.
Yeah.
Where like Girder Goons is secretly like a lightning axe that draws you a card and leaves behind a 2/2.
Yeah, Girder Goons was way better than I thought it was going to be. Like that card
Way
wasn't
better.
even on my radar.
Way better. I've lost a lot of games to Girder Goons.
Yeah.
And then you also have a Plasma Jockey where, they just are consistently getting creatures out of the way. You can tell that like they were worried about the aggressive decks not having a way to get through. If you look at the fact we have Sizzling Soloist.
Yeah.
There's like creature enters the battlefield, something can't block. Okay, cool. And then you have Plasma Jockey attacks, something can't block. And then what is it? The 1 and a white +2/+2, it gets lifelink and flying if it has a counter on it.
Yeah.
Right, so like, oh, you're the blue-white deck and you have a Raffine's Informant with a counter on it, and you've got 2 flyers, but you can't get through with your Refrains Informant. Well, now you have now you have a 5-power flyer to go with your 2-power flyers, and now they take 9 and they die.
Yeah.
Right. So it's very much like your aggro decks can't be like mid-rangey,
Right.
and not have ways to like get blockers out of the way or like give evasion.
Mm-hmm.
You can't just be like, you know, like just red black aggressive deck that doesn't have plasma jockeys and sizzling soloists to get things out of the way. Like those are the decks that have killed me, is when they're just like all right, play the, and also the oh gosh, what is it called? 1 in a red, 1/2 that has menace.
Yeah.
Right? Like that card will deal 4 or 6 damage to you.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Because if you're playing one of the slower decks, you might not have a 2-drop. So then you play your 3, you can't block. Then like maybe you don't have a 4-drop, or you use it to like get your mana underneath you on 4 or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And now you take more. Or like God forbid they like plasma jockey you. You can't block the plasma jockey. The other thing gets in, and now you're just like so far behind.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So they've stuck all this like evasion on the creatures to like kind of get around board stalls.
Okay, that might have been one of the mistakes I was making, because a couple of my drafts had been like aggro-y. Like I tried drafting at least one blitz deck, but I don't think I never put the two together, that like I just had to have some way to force my guys through. So I don't think I prioritized the get the blockers out of the way cards. I was leaning more into removal. But the problem with the removal in this set is that it's more expensive than something that would just get a guy out of the way. So you end up like committing to killing a thing instead of having a threat and getting a guy out of the way.
And like Plasma Jockey, if I told you that Plasma Jockey was just 3 mana, deal 3, draw a card, right? Or a Falter that was a 3 mana Falter that domed your opponent for 3 and drew a card, you'd be like, oh, that card's amazing.
Yeah,
that has way too much text for 2 in a red. Target creature can't block.
Right.
It's like, yeah, that's exactly what the card is. So like there are times where your opponent will just like on turn 3 blitz their plasma jockey to get in 5 damage.
Yeah.
And you're like, what's going on? And it's like, oh, they have 2 more plasma jockeys.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, I'm just never going to get the block for the rest of this game. Or they play like a sizzling soloist, and then they're like, plasma jockey, your whole team can't block.
Yeah.
Take 8. And you're like, oh, if they have 1 more plasma jockey, I'm dead. So, like, I've played some. I had like, so I had 2. My first deck was a Grixis Bombardment deck.
Okay.
Deck was sweet. I lost 2 games to people casting Bad Deal and milling my last 3 cards.
Oh.
Yeah, I flew way too close to the sun. But then like, I had like, or is it like blue-white aggro, but I didn't have like enough flyers and enough ways to get things out of the way. Didn't go well. Green-white citizens that didn't have like all the like the get stuff out of the way things or like evasion didn't go well. But I had like a green-white aggro that had a little bit of staying power and could get things out of the way, and that went way better. So it's all about like, if you're like playing like fair Magic, where you're allowing your opponent to like block, I don't think the aggro decks are very good. But like, what makes the blue-white Flyers deck good is there are very few creatures with flying that aren't blue and white.
Yeah.
And so like in red, like I think
any other set, 2 and a black for a 1/2 flying death touch like would not be playable.
It's good in this format.
It's good in this format, yeah.
But like the 4/5, was it Wrecking Crew? 4/5 like reach trample guy. Like the blue-white Flyer deck, if it doesn't have like the angel, the celestial angel, that like comes in and taps something. Like if it doesn't have that, or like a hold for ransom, card is literally unbeatable. Like I had multiple games where I was just like, oh, I can't beat that card. But like, if you have my last one, I disdainful shrugged one. They stood no chance.
Yeah.
Or like, it's like, oh, like now you take 6, and it doesn't matter what you do next, you die.
Right.
So it's all about like finding those spots to sneak in damage. But if you play like a fair game of Magic, the multicolored cards are just so much better.
Yeah.
Now, how do you build the multicolored decks?
I don't know. Maybe I tried that too, and I didn't have much success. The way that mine went. If I remember correctly, I took a 3-color rare as like my pack 1, pick 2. Like I think my first one, I took something that was easy, like I could have put in any deck. Very non-committal. My rare wasn't very good, but then I got past 2 like 3-color rares back to back, and I just took both of them and said, okay, well I'm just gonna take all of the fixing now. So I took every dual land I could find. I took every one of those like the 6 drops that fix your mana also. I took every one of those, and then I just took all multicolored cards.
So the creatures that fix your lands, yes, like they're good. Like I like the Esper Angel, the Shattered Seraph. I don't know. That's another one I can't ever say when I'm like recording. I'm like Seraph, and I'm like, what am I doing? No. So that one, I like that one. I like the Adjudicators. And the other ones are like fine. Like the Jund one, I don't think I've ever like taken. I may have had like once. And I like the Grixis one. I've played it a few times. But like I really like, and it goes pretty late still. I really like me an Exhibition Magician.
What's that one?
It is 2 and a red for a 2/1 that makes either a treasure or a citizen.
Yep.
It has never made me a citizen. Not one time.
Always fixed your mana?
Always fix my mana. Same thing with like, I will like highly pick Jewel Thieves.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, oh, if I have like 3 Jewel Thieves, I can do whatever I want.
Right.
It doesn't matter anymore. So like I try to lean in on like getting the fixing. The problem is that from what I have seen online and my own kind of experience, like green red isn't that good.
Yeah.
And so like if you end up like not getting the like, you know, busted 3-colored cards that the person who was like a disciplined like, you know, I'm blue white, and they like, you know, were like, well, I can't take this whatever card, I'm gonna pass it.
Yeah.
Right? If you don't get a bunch of those, then your deck's like, yeah, it's whatever.
Well, like
so,
the green, red, gold cards are set up for you to be the 5-color deck, though. Like the 4-drop that's a 2-drop if you spend treasures, like it almost might as well not even be a 2-drop because it's going to take you turns to get set up to the point to cast it with just treasures.
Yeah, like you're like, that's almost flavor text.
Yeah.
It's just like a 4 mana, and like the stimmy, stimulus package.
Yeah.
Like it's you don't get the citizen when you sack a treasure. You have to turn your treasure into a citizen.
Right.
So you didn't even get the mana. So like I haven't brought myself to put it in my deck yet because I'm like, I'm not going to spend 4 mana to get 2 treasures.
Right.
When I can big score.
Right.
And get more cards in my deck.
Yeah.
But like those decks, like you've got to get past, like you either have to be totally irresponsible, which my last like my deck, this is in my spreadsheet, Grixis white. I took a Maestro's Charm, and then I took a Maestro's Charm.
Yeah.
And then I took like a white card. I think I took the Angel, the 2/1 flying, draw a card, gain a life.
Yeah.
Card's busted. There are people taking it over every rare.
Wow.
Like the guy who's like was in the, you know, whatever, top 20 mythic drafters or something. He's like, I take this over every rare.
Wow.
And it's like, oh, okay. Like that card, like I was just like, yeah, I'll take this, and then we'll figure out how I'm gonna cast all this stuff. I got a Void Rend, and it's just, and then I had like 2 of the 5 mana deal 5s in red.
Yeah.
It's like, all right, I'll figure it out. It doesn't matter. Um, but like you've got to kind of like the lands are important, but I think the treasure makers that are like one color
They're more
and
important
like
than the
big
lands are.
score, I think so.
Okay, that might have
Because
been part of
like
my problem because I really wasn't focusing super high on the treasures. Because
yeah,
I think the deck was like base Esper, and then
mhm.
kind of like branched out into 5 colors. I wasn't base red green.
Like I try to be like have red or green as one of the colors. So I'd rather be like Bant red
Hmm.
or like Bant black
Yeah,
or like Grixis white or Grixis green
yeah,
because then I can have like get two Jewel Thieves or like Exhibition Magician goes super late
yeah,
and like I'm just like, oh my gosh, this is perfect. Like, this is my third one of these. I can take any card you pass me, I will take now.
yeah.
And like big score also, where like that card you can't cast, you ditch and you get two treasures and then you cast whatever you draw
Hmm.
is a big game. And
It's a
then a
big
card
score.
that it is a big score. And a card that's really gone up for me in my is oh god, Rogues Gallery.
Okay.
You know what that one does?
Um, Not off the top of my head.
So two and a black. For each color, return a creature from your
Oh yeah,
graveyard to
yeah,
your
yeah.
hand of that color.
Yeah.
I had two people back to back scoop to me making it a draw for.
Wow.
Like I just traded one for one, ground them to dust, and then was like, all I need to do is draw a Rogues Gallery and this game ends.
Hmm.
And I draw it, and I'm like, I'll get back a Shattered Seraph. I'll get back an Exhibition Magician. I'll get back the Grixis thing,
Yeah.
and I'll get back uh, the angel that draws a card,
Hmm.
inspiring angel or whatever. Those are my four cards I get. They explode on the other side. It's like yep. It's like could never beat all those cards.
Yeah.
So like it's like oh if I have one of these like all this stuff that I traded off in the early game is just like a 3 mana draw for is unbeatable.
Yeah.
So like you've got to be set up that that you can weather the early storm
Hmm.
from the aggressive decks, and then there like reaches like a point where just like the aggressive deck can't win anymore.
Yeah.
You're like, I'm at 6, and you have no cards, and I'm now going to win this game because nothing you do now matters.
Right.
It's like I'll cast a 4/4 flyer that gains me 3 life, and it's like, oh, okay,
Game
I'm done.
over.
Yeah, but it is super easy for when you're like, you've got like 3 tap lands and the in a fetch land that you don't get to do anything on 3,
Yeah.
and then you take like
All of it.
6 or 7, and you're like, oh no.
Yeah.
And then you play a thing, and they're like, Plasma Jockey, take 8, and you're like, oh, I guess I'm dead now.
Yeah, I think that was most of my problem. Is I think I had way too many tap lands and like I just never did anything relevant and the game ended.
Yeah, like even though it is like a multicolored format, right? It's hard to have good things to do on 2 all the time.
Yeah.
But like I've had a couple decks, they're not always good, but I'm just like, well, Tavern Swindler has power and toughness.
Eesh.
I have zero intention of ever activating this, but like Tavern Swindler, I've gotten like 11th pick,
Mhm.
and I'm like, you block.
Yeah.
Like I just need like 3 2-drops to like not get annihilated.
Mhm.
And then my 3 drops are, Jewel Thief, Exhibition Magician, or the Angel. And it's like these are gonna like be the things that like bridge me to the next thing. And also like the treasures from the 3 drops, getting to go like
3/5.
3 5, and then you're just like, oh yeah, my 5 drop is huge. Like you like
Yeah.
play the Spara's Adjudicators, and you're just like that can't attack, and I have a 4/4 on 4. And they're just like, oh no, like I lost. They lose their window to push,
Mhm.
and then you're like, you play your next 5 drop, and they're just like, oh, I can't get through now.
Yeah.
Then they have to have like a way to like jump or like multiple things to like make it so you can't block.
Makes sense.
Also,
I'm seeing all of the things I did miserably wrong.
the so LSV tweeted that he kind of forced blue-white
Mm-hmm.
to like a 7-win deck. Like, so we're to the you can force blue-white and like win
Okay.
part of it. So like, you know, I've tried in my last draft, I tried to wheel the whatever Celestial Angel, the one blue-white, where I'm like, well, I'm going to take this one color card because maybe the angel comes back.
Yeah.
And the angel doesn't come back. And like I still had a deck that was ridiculously good. Like it was 7-1 and like most of the games weren't even close.
Yeah.
Or they were like they were the tempo kind of close where you like cross your fingers and you're like, I'm gonna give this +4/+4, and if you don't have a removal spell, you die.
Mm-hmm.
And you're just like, did it work? And you know, it works or it doesn't. And for me, it worked like the 2 times I did it, and I was like, sweet, easy.
Nice.
But then there were other games where it just like, it didn't matter what they did. It was like, oh, counter that, bounce that, you're dead.
Yeah.
And that was with someone else taking the blue-white common.
Gotcha.
So, like, you can get a decent blue-white deck even if you're not the only person drafting it.
Yeah.
But we're, like, to that point, and there's also, like, the dagger, the flash dagger that gives something +1/+1 on first strike.
Mm-hmm. I got blown out by
Apparently that card's playable.
Yeah, I got blown out by it.
I got blown out by it, like, twice. But, like, again, LSV was like, oh, yeah, I have 2 Embercleaves in my deck. I was like, calm down, everyone. Calm down.
Certainly not Embercleave.
Certainly not Embercleave. Games aren't ending on turn 4.
Right.
But they're getting close to it. So that card's apparently way better than I've given it credit for. I've not played one. But yeah, you've got to be looking for, if you're aggressive, like the game can't really get past turn 5 or 6.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're not aggressive,
just kind of slams shut.
Yeah. It's just like, oh, they gained too much life, or they like played 2 big bodies that I can't ever get through.
Yeah.
And then if you're like the long game decks, you're like, I just need like a bunch of removal and like cannon fodder that's like leaving me a little bit of value at the beginning of the game.
Mm-hmm.
So then I can maneuver it to like, here's my big thing that slams the door. But like, I've played like the black, red, like a kind of an black-red sack deck, and it was decidedly I've played against it, and like Body Dropper can be scary, but also doesn't super matter. Like that deck doesn't seem good. Like the mid-rangey decks just seem like
Yeah.
And
I don't
like,
think like the removal's good enough. Like the way it lines up against the creatures in the format, I don't like, it's not ideal.
Like Strangle being a sorcery really hurts it.
Yeah.
Murder being 3 mana, because there's a lot of times you trade like even, because like you can't not kill a Jewel Thief. Right? So you're like, well, I guess I got to spend my murder on this or whatever, and it's just like, that feels really bad.
Well, it's also awkward because of the shield mechanic.
Oh, yeah.
Like, it just turns off your removal spells unless you want to be 2-for-1.
Mm-hmm.
And the like, even I don't think that there is technically a shield deck. Like, I don't think I've played against one, but enough decks have like 1 or 2, reasonable shield creatures where like you're gonna get 2-for-1.
Yeah, like, I mean the 2/1 flash flyer for 4.
Yeah.
That's just like a walking 2-for-1. Like you attack and they're just like flash it and eat your thing. Lose my shield counter, so I have a 2/1 flyer, and you're just like, oh geez.
Yeah.
Like it's like Ravenous Chupacabra. It's like, oh geez. Or if like Flame Tongue Cabo, if it did 2.
Right.
Or is it Flame Tongue Yearling, the Modern Horizons
the Modern Horizons one.
Right, but it's like the same kind of thing. You're just like, oh, I guess I just like got annihilated here.
Yeah.
Great.
But like I said, like that makes the removal not good, and you really can't have a mid-range deck without decent removal.
Yeah, you just there are just too many points where your removal is dead or like kind of poorly costed.
Yeah.
And like so then like to make up for that, you've got to go like bigger. So that when you do like slog through the stuff, that you have something that like really slams the door.
Yeah.
Right. But it does, and also you have, oh god, what is it? The guy who carries a big wrench.
Mr. Orfeo? Oh, the Thragtusk?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, you have cards like that where you're just like, what am I supposed to do?
Yeah.
It's like, I guess, because like I had a game where I was like,
Get
all right,
3
whatever
for
they play
1.
next, I'll just kill it, and they play. I was like, well, we lost.
Yeah.
I lost to someone played the this is the one where I melted down. Played the 1 mana 1/1, the black one that like you pay a life and it gets +1/+0,
Yeah.
and then they put sticky fingers on it.
Oh.
And proceeded to only draw 3 lands all game and just like cast everything in their hand off. I was just like, what is happening? Because I was like, I had like 6 wins. I was like, well, if this is an aggressive deck, we are just dead. Like, this keep is not set up to like beat an aggressive deck, and they played that. I was like, well, it's been fun, everyone.
Yeah.
And then the sticky fingers, I was like, what am I supposed to do with this? And then they played like a 2-drop, and I was like, oh no.
You're supposed to deal 1 damage to it, is what you do.
Apparently, and did not have a Grizzly Sigil to make that happen.
So, you mentioned the sticky fingers. There's a couple auras that are like same category as sticky fingers, at least that I've seen. How do you feel about those enchantments in general? There's sticky fingers. There's the blue one that's like a curiosity kind of, right? Or it connives when it connects.
Yep, security protocol.
Yeah.
Or security breach.
Security breach.
Yeah, and then Rafine something other, the 1 mana +1/+1.
Mm-hmm.
So I have drafted sticky fingers. I've never played it.
Okay.
I don't feel like it's good enough, but then there's also part of me that just like got utterly clowned by it.
Well, when
It is like-
it replaces itself, right? When the creature dies, so
I
you're
think
not
so, yeah.
you're not down a card. And you mentioned the aggro decks. It's important to get stuff out of the way, and Menace certainly gets stuff out of the way.
Yeah, so what I was gonna say is like, is there a deck where you get to take like good, like black and red uncommon level cards or rares, and then you get past late, like, you know, the whatever cutthroat guy, the 1 mana 1/1, and you can get like sticky fingers, like pick 13.
Yeah.
So right, you're using your early picks to like assemble like a powerful, like, you know, a bunch of powerful 3 and 4 drops. You know, you get the prized fighter,
Yeah.
or like the pugilist, right? And then you're getting all these other cards that no one else wants late, like sticky fingers and like sticky fingers on even like the 2 mana menace guy. Hey, like replaces itself mana wise, lets you cast a 3 right after it, like upside. So like I can see where it has a place. And then I played Security Breach in my last deck. I didn't get to go off with it. I came close. So I had 2 Fairy Vandals. So slap that on a Fairy Vandal.
Yeah.
You get like 2 +1/+1 counters every time it hits.
Yeah. That card's way better than I thought it was going to be also.
Yeah, and they can't block it.
Yeah.
And I also played I only played one, the Rafines, whatever. Because I had 2 or 3 of the double strike connive guy, like when you target it, connive.
Yep.
And I was like, I just need things that target these. Because I had 2 of the +2/+2 flying and lifelink. And I was like, oh, I just need this to be like a 4-power creature and then kill them.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, I just need something that targets this idiot. And that's what it was one of the things I ended up using. So I think in like, you know, a deck where you care about the targeting, it's fine, but I don't think it's good.
Okay.
I've not seen anyone else play it, which is probably an indictment on me putting it in my deck, but it did what I needed it to do.
Okay. I mean, I've played it a couple times, and it doesn't replace itself like the sticky fingers does, but I mean, like you said, on a Fairy Vandal, like the thing's it makes it unblockable, and it gets 2 counters every turn.
Yeah, the security breach.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like I had like 2 Fairy Vandals, 2 of the 2/1 Angels, 2 of the 2/3 like tap Angels, so like I just needed counters on things.
Mhm.
And I had like 1 boon of safety.
Mhm.
So I could be like,
Gotcha.
like so like, you know, the dream of like they attack with a 1 toughness thing, you ambush it with your Fairy Vandal, then you like security protocol or security breach attack, like get 2 counters, and then boon of safety it and the game ends.
Yeah.
On like turn 3.
Yeah.
So like that is I think a reasonable way to like play a game in this format. But like if you get your Fairy Vandal blown up,
Mhm.
or something, like then you're just so far behind that your like bigger opponent can just do something that you're like, oh, I can't beat a Wrecking Crew.
Right.
I don't have a removal spell. I don't have a way to like force through or tap it or whatever. Also, witness protection.
Mm-hmm.
Right, if you're the blue-white fires deck, that is literally Swords to Plowshares. Like,
I think it's just Swords to Plowshares, like in every deck. There were multiple games I played where I had 3 legitimate businessmen on my battlefield.
yeah, I have not drafted that as highly as I should in the blue-white flyers deck, or I did in one, but like didn't end up with enough flyers. But like if you have like 6, 7, 8 flyers in your deck,
Yeah.
like you don't care.
Right.
You're like, I'm gonna trade 4 damage for 1, and I'm gonna win this game.
Mm-hmm.
Like you can have a stupid 1/1. I don't care.
Yeah.
Also, you probably weren't doing this, but for everyone who plays a connive, a card with connive,
Mm-hmm.
the alternate mode is discard a spell, get a +1/+1 counter. The main mode is discard an excess land.
Right.
Right? Like,
Don't play
Rafine,
it.
yeah, Rafine's Informant is good because on turn 5, you can discard your 6th land.
Yeah.
Right?
You're probably not going to need 6 or 7 lands in play.
Yeah. So, like, even, like, I've had, like, turn 3s where I'm like, well, or turn 2, I'm like, I have 4 lands in my hand, and I've got, like, I only have, like, 3 cards that cost more than, like, 3 mana.
Yeah.
I'm just going to ditch my 4th land here, because I will draw a 4th land eventually,
Mm-hmm.
and I'd rather have a crack at another spell.
Right.
As opposed to, I want the counter on this.
Yeah.
And now there are times where you're like, you know what, I'm going to, like, my hand shapes out that I want a 3/2, so then I can Angel, and then I can, like, hold for ransom and start bashing for 5.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that works out. But for the most part, you're just like, I need to keep, like, gas flowing.
Yeah.
So don't think that, like, I know Connive tells you to discard a spell, but you don't have to. Yeah, don't feel, like, obligated. Just be like, you know what? I know I'm going to win this game if I don't flood out.
Yep.
So make sure you don't flood out.
Sage advice.
Yeah. So just keep that in mind, especially like if you are like the blue-white aggressive deck or the green-white aggressive deck, and you're just like, you know what? I just need to go. I need to curve out. I need to make sure I hit like I know I'm going to hit my 3-drop, and then I can go like 2/2 on 4. I don't need this 5th land. Go away.
Yep.
And then like later in the game, like hold your lands, so you can turn them into the hopefully spells or the next land down, so you can get through it faster. All right. So that was our limited discussion.
Moving on.
So we had last time talked about Explore.
Yeah.
And we had some decks that I had thrown together.
Mm-hmm.
But Seth, probably better known as Saffronol.
You beat us to the punch.
Yeah, did a video on Sunday. What was that about?
He basically made a tier list of all of the decks in Pioneer that could be exported to Explorer. Obviously, S tier being the best, A tier, right up there. all the way down to decks that are missing key components or like will not work in Explorer. The only reason I bring this slide up to show you guys is because we only have so much time in our episodes. We couldn't get to this stuff last week, and I don't think we're going to get through all of it this week either. But this article's here, and I think Bryan is going to try and put a link in the description to this article if you want to learn more about the Explorer format. I know both of us are pretty excited about the Explorer format, so hopefully some of you guys are too. I would imagine a reasonable amount of our content is going to be Explorer for at least until the newness wears off. Then we might change it up a little bit. But if you guys are interested in some more of what we're talking about today, he went significantly deeper than we did. We kind of only looked at lists that maybe we were interested in or were like relatively easy ports to explore. Seth went a little bit deeper than that. So
yeah. Also, if you're in the Discord, I posted this video up on Sunday.
Yeah.
So I was on the ball with that.
Yeah. He's got some stuff that we were interested in here.
Yeah. So last week I had like a list of decks that like. So I have been playing Historic with one hand tied behind my back.
Yeah, you've been playing Explorer in Historic.
Yes, I've been playing Explorer and Historic for basically ever since Historic got super weird. Because my thought process was I want to learn how to play decks that I will actually like play in paper.
Right.
At some point. So I'm going to play as close as I can to a Pioneer deck, even if I'm running it into like Muxuses and like Faithless Looting, Flashback.
Stuff that you wouldn't see. Yeah.
And my thought process was always like, all right, like this is how this plays out, but yeah, okay, this isn't a real deck I have to worry about. So yes, I got like annihilated. Yeah. But right, like this is how the deck would play out for these turns. This is the right lines to take. But something ridiculous happened that I can never beat because like I'm at a different power level.
Right. You got Dragon Race Channeler.
Yeah, I got cards that are banned in Modern and Legacy. Got me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, oh, I got Faithless Looting.
Yeah.
Problem. Right. So, do you want to go through them in the order that I had them?
Yeah. No, absolutely.
So, first up, we have, and this was a list I was playing a while back. Someone had tweeted it as like a Jeskai list, as like a Yorion pile. And it's blue-red creativity.
Okay.
So
no Yorion though.
No Yorion. I cut it down to blue-red.
Yeah.
To like make the mana better. And I don't know, I'm just kind of opposed to Yorion. Like my deck should be 60 cards, not 80.
Yeah. So what is blue-red creativity looking to do? So
there is a combo that is that allows you to make as many hasty 1/1 flyers as you have cards in your deck.
Okay.
And that is if you get a Sage of the Falls, which is from Throne of Eldraine, 4 and a blue for a 2/5 that whenever it or another non-human creature enters the battlefield, you get to loot. And then
you may, so you don't have to.
Yeah. You can stop, yeah. And then the Locust God says whenever you draw a card, make a 1/1
bug
insect with haste.
Yep.
So when they both come into the battlefield at the same time, you get 2 instances of the draw trigger, and then each time you draw,
you make a bug.
You make a bug, which then triggers the Sage of the Falls.
Yep.
So this can play basically like a control deck.
Yeah, a lot of the cards that are in here look, just like regular control cards. You have Opt, Fire Prophecy, Anger, Expressive Iteration, Mystical Dispute, some interaction.
Yeah. So what you're trying to do is get a collection of, you need two things that you can target with Indomitable Creativity.
Yep.
And that goes through your deck and looks for 2 creatures.
Mhm.
The only two creatures in your deck are Sage of the Falls and the Locust God. So then you just make a whole bunch of hasty 1/1 flyers and you kill your opponent.
Yep.
So you play things like Big Score, which I guess was Unexpected Windfall because it wasn't on
Yeah.
uh, uh, Goldfish yet, but like Big Score and to get treasures to sacrifice.
Mhm.
You can also play the red land. What is he
Sokensan.
called? Yeah, Sekenzin, Crucible of Defiance, that
Yep.
makes two
2/1/1s.
1/1s. So like instant speed on their turn at the end of their turn 4, you're like make two 1/1s, untap, kill you.
Yeah.
So you can like play this like control game, but then it has like a combo finish.
Mhm.
So like the person who originally tweeted it was like, "Oh, it's Splinter Twin. Splinter Twin's back." Right, where you play this like control game and then you just have like an oops, I win.
Yeah. Kind of, sorta.
Kind of, sorta. But like Prismari Command gives you interaction,
Yeah.
plus can give you like a piece of cardboard.
Mhm.
Fable of the
Something
Mirror
to
Breaker.
sack to indomitable creativity.
Yep, Fable of the Mirror Breaker gives you two pieces of cardboard,
It does.
or more,
Or more,
when
yeah.
you attack.
Yeah.
So like it just has all these little synergies that lets you like just get to the point where you can win the game.
Mhm.
I don't know if my build that I have in here is right, but it's I think a reasonable place to start.
Yeah, this version looks like it has an awful lot of dig and not a whole lot of like interaction. Like you have the
Yeah.
Fire Prophecy and the Anger of the Gods, and then like the disputes and the Prismari command, but
Mhm.
like it seems like there's a lot of holes in that interaction suite.
Yeah. Fire Prophecy is there because it lets you put one of the two creatures back on the bottom of your deck.
Yeah.
If you draw it, same with Valakut Awakening.
Mhm.
That lets you put like if you draw those cards, you can just throw them back into your deck. So a few ways to get things back in. But yeah, you could definitely like I probably have too many expressive iterations. Maybe there should only be like 2 or 3 as opposed to the 4. So this is a thing to start with, I think. But it is a reasonable place, and like I played it to, or a version of it to pretty good success in Historic.
Yeah.
So we don't have Narset and Collective Defiance, but we do have this kind of blue-red combo control deck.
Mhm.
And if you wanted to go bigger with Yorion, the upside of playing an 80 card deck is you are less likely to draw Sage of the Falls and the Locust God.
That is true.
Right? Indomitable Creativity doesn't care
Right.
how many cards are in your deck, other than for drawing it.
Mhm.
So, yeah, but it is a good place to start, I think.
Yeah. Seems solid. Now, this next one is, I think, one of the decks you played the most with.
Yeah, this is my baby.
Yeah. Affectionately Zombie Rally, even though Rally's not here. Return to the Ranks does a pretty good job of
Mhm.
sliding in for Rally of the Ancestors. But this deck is, can kind of do two different game plans. You're either just a zombie beatdown deck, which it does super well with Champion of the Perished. You can get some, decent mid-range value out of Crypt Breakers, and then you kind of have a combo kill after you've, traded off some resources, milled some of these zombies into your graveyard. You get a couple Wayward Servants and Corpse Knights, and you return them back to the battlefield, and you can drain your opponent for an insane amount all at once, like out of nowhere.
Yeah. And it's good that you do have, like, the backup plan.
Yeah.
Right? You don't have to be all in on, like, being a graveyard deck.
Mhm.
Right? Because you can just go, like, Champion into Lazatep Reaver.
Yeah. It's a
attack for
very
3.
fast clock.
Yeah, it's like, basically you flip a Delver.
Yeah.
And then you're just bashing them.
Yeah.
I haven't played it in Explorer, and I haven't seen it played.
I've played it a little bit in Explorer. Like I said, I kind of incinerated all my in-game currency pretty quickly, so I quickly moved on to, things that were a little bit less expensive to play, and I already had all of this stuff, so
Yeah.
a couple things that I noted is I wasn't really ever in a position where I ever wanted to see a Priest of Forgotten Gods.
Oh, see, I think Priest of Forgotten Gods is great.
Mm.
Now, I haven't played it in
Yeah, I mean,
Explorer.
maybe it's a difference between Explorer and Pioneer, but like I'd never. I always wanted to be doing something different. I was either applying pressure and didn't want to take a turn off to get it on the battlefield, or it was a top deck and I needed something else.
So I like I use it as like my removal
Mm-hmm.
because I would aggressively sack things
Mm-hmm.
to try to dig to like the return to the ranks,
Okay.
and then also you get in these situations where um on like on turn 3 you can Priest of Forgotten Gods away 2 things and then immediately return to the ranks and deal like 6 damage.
Mm-hmm.
And now you've like put them on a clock where you put 6 power onto the battlefield, dealt them 6 damage, and so like I really liked Priest of the Forgotten Gods in the deck, but I haven't played it in Explorer versus Historic.
Okay.
Like there were definitely times where like it is awkward when you go like champion and then you're like, well, do I want to play my priest or do I want to play my Lassatep Reaver? It's like, well, if
Yeah.
I play my priest, I can like Lassatep Reaper on 3, sack it, kill their creature, make my thing bigger, and then get mana to like play some stuff out. But then you lose the like super fast like champion start.
Yeah.
So it does like not fit there.
Yeah. I don't know. It seemed a little out of place in the. I think it seemed a little out of place in the format in general because of the type of decks I was seeing. Like there's a ton of red black mid range floating around, and for the most part, like they're killing their stuff off on their own. Like it's not an inconvenience to them to have to sacrifice something to Priest of the Forgotten Gods.
Fair.
And the other deck I've seen a lot of is like the either blue white control or 3 or 4 color Yorion control.
Mm-hmm.
And they also, it's kind of just a dead card against them. It doesn't really do anything.
Yeah, so like I said, I had it in. This is a list I was playing like
Yeah.
2 months ago.
Yeah.
So things have changed, and like I don't think Priest of the Forgotten Gods is like particularly good against like Winoda.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, I mean,
Which
they've
is
got
like
enough mana dorks where they can
they've
throw
got
something
enough
away that
just
doesn't
like
matter.
stupid stuff. I don't know what goes in that spot.
Yeah,
but there are like some reasonable like 2-drop zombies that could go on that spot.
Mm-hmm.
Also, like this was a Loris deck when I first built it, but Loris is now banned, so you don't have to be because like I'm pretty limited to like everything is 2 mana value or less.
Well,
in the
I mean
slot.
that works for Return to the Ranks too, because Return to the Ranks has to be 2 or less.
Yeah. But like you do, like there is an argument that you could either have a different 2-drop in there, or you could maybe go a little bit bigger.
Yeah.
But
like a Headless Rider or something.
Like that, like out of the board, so that you like have a way to go a little bit longer.
Mm-hmm.
But so the concessions for being Explorer versus being Pioneer is one, I have Dusk Dawn as opposed to Rally of the Ancestors, and like I've won a number of games by dusking away all my opponent's stuff.
Yeah.
But at the same time, the fact that Dawn just puts it into your hand as opposed to cast onto the battlefield
for
is
5 mana, yeah.
For 5 mana is pretty brutal.
Yeah.
And the other thing is the Shattered Sanctums that are in the deck would be Caves of Koilos.
Yes.
And there are plenty of times where you have a draw that's like Shattered Sanctum and something else, and you can't like you can play the Champion of the Parish, but then you can't play your 2-drop.
Yeah, or your Crypt Breaker.
And then you're like super far behind because again you lost that like fast start, or you didn't get to go Crypt Breaker and then lost the tap Reaver draw card.
Yeah.
So that is like the biggest drop. Like those 2 things are a pretty big downgrade for the deck.
Are there
But
any other zombies from like Shadows or Eldritch Moon that you'd want in here that we don't have on the client yet? I'm trying to
if you're
think.
not sold on Priest of the Forgotten Gods, there is Relentless Dead.
Oh yeah,
Um, that's like recursive zombie. Is like a 2/2 menace for black, I think.
yeah, yeah. I think so.
So like that
And
could
it
be in
comes
there.
back, and it can bring something else back.
Yeah, it's just a wall of text and
Yeah,
it's on a 2-mana mythic.
yeah,
There's also what is it, Graveyard Marshal, the 3/2 for black.
yeah.
I think it's from like a core set. I think it might actually be on the
I
client.
think it is.
Um, that like exiles things from the graveyard and just does a bunch of stuff and is just like a 3/2 for 2.
What about like any of the lords? There's a bunch of lords that are legal in Explore.
Yeah. That's like the. Do you like? Do you want to lean into like the zombie aggro deck,
Yeah,
which you absolutely could, right? Where you could be like, all right, I'm gonna put in. I think Death Baron's on the client, right?
yeah.
And then Lord of the Accursed
Yep,
is
both
also
of
on the
them.
client.
Yep.
So like you could like Death Baron, Lord of the Accursed, cut the Dusk Dawns and the Priest of Forgotten Gods, and be like a zombie deck that also occasionally just deals 40 to your opponent off of a return to the ranks.
Yeah.
And you can also like chain return to the ranks,
Mhm.
where you like if you have 2, you get back a couple white creatures,
Mhm.
and then use them to convoke it
Right.
to then get back a few more. So you're like, oh, I've got like 7 mana, and it's like, well, cool. That gets you back 5 creatures, which then gets you back 3.
Yep.
So like you can rebuild after a wrath really quick and maybe just like oops kill them.
Mhm.
So
I mean, I
but yeah,
hope
you
so.
can
If you're
all
bringing back 7 creatures, then
yeah
they
they
should be
should
pretty close
die.
to dead.
Yeah.
Some number of those are going to be Wayward Servants or Corpse Knights. So
Yes, and so yeah, you could just become like a zombie aggro deck where you play some like Lord Suite,
yeah.
and like that's your A plan, and then your B plan is like, oh yeah, you're at 15, you're dead.
Mm-hmm.
That's another way to build it. But this one was a lot of fun.
Yeah,
Like,
it was a lot of fun. I played this some over the weekend. That's how I knew Priest of Forgotten Gods might not be
it might
positioned
not be,
accurately currently.
yeah. So what's up next?
Next, we have
Hey,
your boy, Esper Combo Cars.
Esper combo cards
With the Greasy Boy.
with the greasiest boy. I still need to get one altered to put your face on him, but one day,
One day.
one day, I got a. What if someone can alter a full art foil greasy boy for you? So there are 2 combo cards, right? We have Esper, and we'll talk about Mardu here in a second. Esper is more controlling.
Mm-hmm.
Is almost like kind of like a blue-black control deck
I mean, very much so.
that has a like combo finish.
Yeah.
So kind of like the blue-red creativity deck that was a blue-red control deck that just oops I win.
Mm-hmm.
Same thing here. So we took this list in the pre-show because I had built an Esper combo cards list, which was not good. I didn't wish to expose you guys to that.
Well, I mean, part of the issue was that when we put this list or all of these lists together, it was 2 weeks ago before any of this stuff was out yet. So
Yeah.
we didn't we couldn't actually put it in here because it wasn't here to put
and also couldn't like test it.
Yeah.
So this is interesting. It's playing Ledger Shredder. There we go. I got through it.
You got it.
It's a 2-mana 1/3 that when you cast your second spell each turn, it connives.
Mm-hmm.
So, right, it gives you an extra way to discard to get your vehicle in the graveyard.
Right.
And it also is giving you a threat, right?
Mm-hmm.
A lot of the Esper Greasefang lists are so hard on the control side of things that they don't have a plan B.
Right. Their only way to win is to Greasy Boy a Parhelion.
Yeah. So having something like this that is like working towards your actual like game plan
mm-hmm.
and being a threat that your opponent has to burn a removal spell on.
Yeah.
is really important. Right? So, like, I hadn't seen that before, and that's interesting. Like, I really want to try to make Rafine's Informant work in the deck.
Mm-hmm.
But this version is way more blue-black, and I don't think the mana could support a 2-mana white spell.
Yeah, you'd have to change it all around.
Yeah. So, like, I was trying to do blue-white splash black so that I could get a Faithful Mending as, like, my discard spell. And they're getting around that by playing the new blue-black Charticores Tainted Indulgence, which kind of does everything that Faithful Mending does, or a big part of it, because you only really need to discard one card.
Right.
It needs to be
Parhelion.
a vehicle. Yeah, it needs to be a Parhelion. So, yeah, so this, you're just digging, playing a little bit of removal. It plays like a sweeper.
Yeah, there's one Extinction event, some Fatal Pushes, some Infernal Grasps, and a bunch of cantrips.
Yep, so you're just trying to assemble it as quickly as you can and deal 13 and hope they can't answer 2 angels.
Yep.
The 2 main concessions we made in this deck was we have Memory Deluge in here.
Yeah, it's supposed to be dig through time, right?
Yeah, but we don't have that. Memory Deluge is a reasonable percentage of dig through time.
Yeah, it's close-ish. It has the upside of, if you've discarded it to Chart a Course or Tainted Indulgence, or connived it away, you can cast it out of the graveyard later.
Mm-hmm. But like maybe there should only be like, maybe there shouldn't be 3 since you don't get like the dig through time discount of casting it for 2.
Yeah.
And then in the sideboard they had Monastery Mentor.
Yeah.
As a, I'm assuming a juke against like Graveyard Hate. You just like bring in your Mentor, like you have a ton of spells that you want to cast anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So we were like, well, Sedgemoor Witch does a reasonable percentage of that job.
Yeah, I mean it doesn't kill as fast. Like,
yeah,
I mean, Monastery Mentor can kill over like 2 turns, and Sedgemoor Witch isn't going to do that, but it's a little stickier, harder to deal with.
Yeah, and it's the closest thing in the format to Monastery Mentor, unless you went like the other thing I thought of was Poppet Stitcher.
Oh, Poppet Stitcher might be good.
Yeah, you could also Poppet Stitcher in this spot as well. So there are like 2 things you could try to kind of get that Monastery Mentor vibe back.
I wonder, Poppet Stitcher turns all your tokens into poppets, right? I wonder if there's any way to get some like treasure stuff in here.
Does it turn your non-zombies into...
I think it's anytime you would make a token.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it just turns all of your tokens into poppets.
So yeah, there is an argument that you could do that.
I hadn't thought about him.
Oh no, creature tokens you control lose
it
abilities.
is just creatures. Okay.
Yeah, and have base power and toughness 3/3.
Okay.
So, like, that's another thing you could try in that slot.
Mm-hmm.
But this is way more like, I have to get a Parhelion. If I don't, I am going to die.
Yeah.
But it is trying to address some of that by having like a second creature that can get kind of out of hand really fast.
Yeah.
And
so,
then we have.
Do you want to talk about the other greasy deck, or do you want to go in order?
Yeah, let's talk about the other greasy deck.
All right.
Keep them together here. All right. So then we have Mardu Greasefang, which is a deck that 100 all but like 1 card in the main deck goes from the Pioneer version into Explorer.
And that one card is an Urborg.
It's an Urborg, which I turned into Agadim's Awakening.
Yeah. Which
has won me games where it's just brought back a Greasefang on 6 mana.
Yep.
So, like, there are upsides to being an Agadim's Awakening over being an Urborg.
So I actually made a couple. I played this deck a little bit over the weekend, and I made a few updates, or mainly just one update. I think if you're in red-black and you're playing Blood Tithe Harvester, you're making a mistake if you're not playing Ob.
So I haven't messed with the deck too much. Um, my thought for Obnick's list in this list was I could definitely see it being like a sideboard option,
Okay.
right? Like if you are going to play against control a lot,
Hmm.
like we talked about in the pre-show, like if you Blood Tithe Harvester, play an Ob and get 2 of them, like on turn 3, like your control opponent's like 0% to win that game. Like, oh, you played a tap land on turn 2,
Yeah.
you're dead.
Yeah.
Uh, but I worry that you could dilute the main game plan too much.
Well, I mean, I definitely did. I cut the big boat, and
Oh,
I cut Cruxa and Sorin.
So,
Well, Cruxa and Sorin went to the sideboard.
okay. Like, there are times where I'm like, I wish I had a second Croxa,
Yeah.
and I don't know what to cut.
Yeah.
But I could see,
But like Ob does most of what Cruxa does.
fair. Fair. Like, it is like attacking their hand in like it is like a threat that they have to deal with.
Yeah.
Um yeah, I could see that. Like the other thing I could maybe see cutting is the can't stay away.
Mhm.
You could cut like maybe one of those.
Yeah.
Like I like the Sorin as sometimes it is just like a threat U plus, but it is just kind of another like can't stay away.
Yeah. The way to bring back Greasy Boy.
Yeah. The upside of like can't stay away over Sorin is the turn 2 wins.
Yeah. I mean, you
When
can
you-
also mill it and cast it out of your graveyard where you couldn't with Sorin.
Yeah, but I say when your citrus supplier just flips over
Greasy Boy and a Parhelion.
and you're looking at a can't stay away and you're just like, oh, this game ends on turn 2.
Yeah.
This is amazing. And they're like, oh, I'm gonna tap out and like play something dumb, and you're like, awesome, take
Perfect.
13. And they're like, oh,
Yeah.
and you're like, sweet, I win.
Yep.
So yeah, like I haven't messed with Ob, but I think I got I was playing this in Historic before the set came out because like I just wanted to see how it played, and I got the Diamond 3.
Yeah.
In Historic playing an Explorer deck. So the thing this has over it, other than Esper, is it plays a lot more creatures.
Yeah. I mean, it does something besides make a Parhelion.
Yeah. So like Citrus Supplier like supports your Parhelion plan.
Mhm.
But and then Valdarian Epicure and Blood Tithe Harvester are just reasonable creatures.
That also
And-
kind of supports your plan.
Yeah, that like give you a way to discard.
Yeah.
But like you can go like Epicure into Blood Tithe Harvester, and now your control opponent has to deal with the 4 power on the board.
Right.
And if they deal with the 4 power on the board, now you have a way to get sneak your Greasefang in.
Yeah.
Or, they don't want to use the removal spell on this stuff because they know that you're a Greasefang deck.
Yeah. The other
so
thing
now-
that like this deck has over the Esper deck is that the Esper deck probably isn't going to kill in one shot. It's going to
Yes.
be like over 2 turns, and your opponent has a chance to react. This version, your opponent's going to be dead in one shot.
Mm-hmm.
Like you're going to have
Yeah.
dealt some number of damage, and your opponent will just die.
There are times where, like, I had someone at 14 and attacked, put him to 1, and then was like, play Valdor and Epicure, kill you.
Yeah.
Right? And, like, you don't have that, like, extra bit of reach
Right.
and that extra pressure in the Esper deck.
Yeah.
And you get to play, like, sneaky, one of the top, like, 15 to 20 cards in the format of Fable of the Mirror Breaker.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I didn't think that card was very good initially, but the more I think about it, it is just, what is his name? Seasoned Pyromancer.
Yeah.
It's just Seasoned Pyromancer, and that card is good. Uh-oh.
I don't know what's
He's
happening.
trying to mouse over it to show the people in the video, and it's just wigging out on him.
Yeah, I don't know what's happening. Ooh, they're
So-
all going crazy.
Oh, there we go. We got some back. Oh, all the ones that have 2 sides
Oh, yeah.
are not working, right?
Yeah.
You have 1 side were golden, 2 sides were broken.
Oh, well.
So yeah, like I could definitely see like if you like cut a few pieces to like sneak in like 2 or 3 obs, right? Now you've just added another thing on 3 they have to deal with.
Yeah.
Right. Oh, and another thing that this has, because it has so many creatures, is Deadly Dispute. Right, you just get to get through your deck so fast, and right, you have all these blood tokens laying around, which you can feed to your Deadly Dispute to like get to your pieces. And like I've definitely had games where I'm like, okay, I'm going to Deadly Dispute. I'm going to use the treasure to like discard Parhelion, and then I'll be able to like sneak my Greasefang out.
Yeah.
Also, if you're playing against the next deck we're going to talk about, which is Winota, right? Being able to sack a blood token to turn on a Fatal Push,
huge.
Is huge.
Or
yeah, they're just like, they're like doop to doop to doop. Here's my Winota, and you're just like, I'll discard my Parhelion, kill your Winota, kill you next turn.
Yep.
And they're just like, oh, that was brutal. I guess oh no.
I was going to Agent of Treachery you.
Yeah. I was going to take your second land drop. Not today, Satan. So, like, just having that, like, the blood tokens give you an extra amount of play.
Yeah.
So, like, Sorin and Can't Stay Away are in there because you have Stitcher Supplier, and you're going to mill your Greasefangs.
Yeah.
So, just a way to get them back. Aghanim Awakening also does that as well. But yeah, like, I could definitely see, like, being, like, an ob deck as well. Like, leaning more into, like, I'm red-black mid-rangey control thing. Right? Because, like, this deck could also have, like, you know, if Winota wasn't omnipresent, right? Like, Bone Crusher Giant would be good in this deck.
Right.
Right? But it deals 2, which does not kill a Winota.
Does not kill a Winota.
So, yeah,
Lightning
but this has been a lot of
does.
fun. Lightning Axe does. I've gotten some people with a Lightning Axe. This has been the, this has been my, I'm just gonna, like, play a deck. Like, I've got, like, I just played Mardu, and, like, I think I got 10 wins today playing it. Just like, okay, like, I need to, like, relax for a few minutes. Oh, I'll 13 you. Okay, cool. Moving on. Feel good. I still got it.
Yep. Palate cleanser.
Palate cleanser, exactly. So, if you were gonna like start somewhere, if you were like, I don't want to play Winota, or like if you're into a Greasefang deck, like I would start here.
Deck's a blast to play.
Yeah,
and it's not all in like the Esper is. The Esper one, you're basically just doing one thing. Where the Mardu one, you definitely have a different game plan if the Greasefang Parhelion doesn't work out.
Yeah, and like you also have the thing where you look at your opening hand and you're like, oh, we're on the beatdown plan.
Yep.
Like, you can just keep hands that, like, have, like, nothing going on at all. And you're just like, oh, like, I've got, like, 1-drop, 2-drop, and, like, 2 removal spells. I'll figure this out because, like, your 1 and your 2-drop show you cards.
No, I have definitely kept Voldaren Epicure, Blood Tithe Harvester, Fable of the Mirror Breaker in 1 without making like a Greasy Boy.
Like, easily.
Yeah.
Just like, oh yeah, like you just got clowned.
Yep.
So that is very different than the Esper version.
Yep.
But if you want to combo people, like that one's probably better at comboing people. Speaking of comboing people,
oh boy,
not all the time. So, there's Winota, and I think Winota is like the hard limit on the format.
What do you mean by that?
You have to build your deck or your sideboard or both in a way that accounts for this deck being in the format.
Yeah.
Right, we talked about the fact that, like, it's your job when you're playing, if your opponent goes, like, land Mana Dork, to, like, run through all the possibilities and put Winota at the top.
Right.
And be like, okay, I'm now playing this game to, on turn 3, deal with a 4/4.
Right.
Right, so is that, like, trying to dig for your Lightning Axe, or, like, make sure you have a blood token up for your Fatal Push, or, you know, you're playing blue, like, so we were making changes to the blue-black, for the Esper Greasefang deck to get everything, like, legal in the format, and it had an Eliminate in the main deck, and then eliminate in a murderous cut.
Yep.
Well, murderous cut's not legal.
And eliminate doesn't kill Winota.
So, like, I don't think you can play eliminate.
Yeah.
Like that's why it became Infernal Grasp, because it kills a Winota. So if you haven't played against this deck wants to go turn 1 Mana Dork, turn 2 preferably Prosperous Innkeeper, turn 3 Winota, attack with 2 things.
Yep.
And then spin the wheel and put some ridiculous amount of power in the battlefield, ideally Tovolar's Huntmaster. Puts 10 power on the battlefield.
Yikes.
There are other builds that are different than this one that we have in the show notes, where like I have Lion Sash in here and Redain, God of the Worthy. And they're playing Courier's Briefcase, the new card from what's it called? From Streets of New Capenna. Because it's just backwards Prosperous Innkeeper.
Oh, okay.
Right, you cast the treasure and it makes a creature, as opposed to casting the creature and making the treasure.
Yeah.
So it does the same thing, and like you can't hit Lion Sash off of a Winota trigger.
Right.
Right, just like you can't hit Courier's Briefcase. So you don't actually go down any hits, but you increase the number of times you have 4 mana on turn 3 with multiple creatures that can attack. So, just like the Mardu deck, this deck's fail case is playing Naya midrange.
Yeah, I mean, it does a pretty good job of that. Clears out blockers, makes big thing.
Yeah, so Brutal Cathar to clear out blockers.
Yep.
Tovolar's Huntmaster is big thing. Some of them have, what is his name? Kenrith, the Return King.
Yeah.
Right, if that resolves, then you just get to, give all your stuff trample and haste and win the game that way.
Yep.
It has Azeka's Chariot.
Yep.
As big, good mid-range threat that is also 2 things to trigger your Winota. So you don't even really have to, get your Winota. You can just play, a fair game. But the games where you get Winota, you just end them on, turn 3.
Yeah.
And you're just like, oh, okay.
Or effectively end them on turn 3.
But you also have, the big advantage this deck has is when everyone makes that decision that they're playing against Winota, what do they have to do? They have to hold their, 1 removal spell and their 1 to 2 mana to kill the Winota.
Right.
Right? So, if you just go, Mana Dork into Prosperous Innkeeper and then, play Athalia or play Azeka's Chariot, or they're going to use the removal spell on a cat? Well, no, because what if you have it next turn?
Right.
And then they just get clowned.
Yeah, they're playing a turn and a half behind, basically.
It's almost like how, again, for old-timey modern people, when you played against Splinter Twin, right?
Yeah.
You were like, oh, I can't really tap out on my turn 3 because they could just Pestermite Twin me and I lose. Right, so and then you're in this weird spot of, do I have to hold up my removal spell? And then, you hold up your removal spell and they're just like, fine, I'll, draw some cards.
Yep.
And then they just keep playing.
And
here it's like, oh, you held up your removal spell, fine, I'll play Fable of the Mirror Breaker. And now you have to answer this thing.
Yeah, you're going to kill my goblin instead? Yeah.
So, they just put you in a really bad spot, so you're always kind of, playing scared. So, the Esper, the Grease Fang answer to this, Mardu, is you get to play a little scared and, get some things on the battlefield, but then, you can, chip away and then all of a sudden be, 13 you.
Yeah.
And give yourself a chance to not die.
Yep.
So, it is a very good deck. It is super annoying. There are other builds that have Agent of Treachery. The combo that got Winota banned out of whatever format that was. Historic.
Yeah.
right? Like that is still a thing. I had my second land drop stolen. Instant concession.
Second land drop.
Second. They were on the play and they turned 3 Winoted and hit an Agent of Treachery and took my second land drop. They missed their third land drop and they got my second land drop to be their third. I was like, well, that's just not even fair. Like, that's just mean. So, I don't know. Magic Aids was trying. Oh, what is it called? Is it Welcome to the Feast or something? It's the 3 mana instant that look at the top 5 cards, put a creature in your hand, make a citizen.
Okay.
As a way to make a citizen and increase your chances of drawing Winota.
All right.
It didn't go super well for him. He wasn't sure. He said it's like a 29% chance that you hit Winota when you cast it. So roughly like 1 in 4.
Yeah.
So he said it wasn't like quite consistent enough, but it is something to consider if you want to like try to lean into the combo even more. It's like, again, like you read it as an instant and you like don't put it together, but if it was like a 3 mana 1/1 that like looked at the top 4 cards and put a creature in your hand, you'd be like, this is pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
So, things to think about. This deck, depending on how you build it, has all of its cards from Pioneer.
Yeah.
So, in best of 1, I think this is the best deck.
It's everywhere.
It's everywhere. I think its only competition is blue-white, because like blue-white is really good in best of 1, because you can't sideboard, like, because you have 10 dead cards in your deck, or 6 dead cards in your deck. Right? Like, you lose every game against blue-white that you, like, have 2 fatal pushes in your opening hand.
Yeah.
Like, oh, this is great against, like, Elf, and they're, like, Hollowed Fountain, and you're like, oh, man. Like, I don't think I can win this now. So, but this is the deck that I think you have to look out for in best of 1 and probably best of 3.
Yeah, it's in both.
Like, you have to have a plan. Like, what is your plan to beat this deck? As opposed to just like, oh, I'll figure it out. It's like, no, you have to have like... So in the sideboard of this deck, I put in 2 red cap melees. Right? Because if you're playing the mirror, you bring in your red cap melees, you pop their Winota, they tapped out for it. Mm-hmm. Hopefully you get to then play your Winota when they don't have mana, and then you get to win. As opposed to... So you have to have some sort of like, here's my plan to win this matchup. So yeah, so those are all the decks we saw, or that we thought looked good. Seth took care of all the other ones for us. Thanks, Seth.
Yeah.
So...
There's a lot on there. We didn't hit on the sacrifice decks. We didn't hit on some of the mid-range decks. We didn't hit on the fires decks. They're all in his article if you wanted to check them out. Like I said, I think Bryan's going to try and put a link in the description.
Yeah, I'll get them in there for you.
You know, I scrolled through. If you're watching the video, you can kind of pause and look at what was there. I've also been playing like just a regular Rakdos mid-range deck. I kind of just threw it together over the weekend, and it's still kind of a work in progress, so I didn't feel the need to, you know, share it on the show here, but maybe if it turns into something, I will.
Yeah. But I think that Explorer is a good place for you to get enough of a feel for Pioneer, that as long as you're not really interested in some of the decks that Seth will have in his, like, does not work.
Yeah.
As he points out, if your deck is named after a card that is not in the format, your deck will not work.
Yeah.
Right? So as long as you're not, like, really interested in one of those decks, right? Like, you can get a pretty authentic feel for, like, okay, if I go to my Pioneer F&M, like, these are the kind of things I can expect to see.
Yeah, I mean, the downside is you're not going to get to play against it before F&M either. Like, if you're jamming Grease Fang into, like, Lotus Field or something, like...
Yeah, you don't know how that goes.
Yeah.
But, like, we've talked about before, like, preparing for tournaments, like, when we prepared for that Legacy tournament years ago now, right? We couldn't play every matchup, but you could sit down and think about, like, okay, what is my plan for Lotus Field?
What are they trying to do? What can I do to disrupt them?
What cards do I have to bring in? Blah, 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 blah. And, like, you can still, like, come up with a reasonable plan without having played the matchup.
Mm-hmm.
But it does, like, you just can't then test that plan.
Yeah.
Right? Your testing is like at your FNM as opposed to like sitting on the toilet. Uh,
Yeah.
so
Trial by fire.
yeah, but you can still like get a sense of like how your deck plays out. Like, what are the lines? Like, oh, if I have this opening hand, what are the things I need to draw, or what should I play towards? Right? As opposed to like, not like in historic, it was so. Oftentimes, I would just go like, well, that wasn't helpful.
Yeah.
Like when my opponent went like Dragon Rage Chandler into Faithless Looting into like Unholy Heat, and it's just like, yeah, like I just like lost to a legacy deck. Okay, awesome.
Yeah.
Moving on. It's like I didn't learn anything here. But here, like, you're gonna pretty much learn something in like most of your matchups, because most of the decks that are getting played are the decks that are like at the top of the Pioneer meta.
Mm-hmm.
So hopefully they put, when they do their whatever it's called, their historic anthology, it's just like 20 Pioneer cards.
Well, I think that's what they said to expect.
Yeah, but it's 20 Pioneer cards that like fill in some holes.
Mm-hmm.
That like, give us, Bant Spirits or Blue-White Spirits, or fill in some cards for 5-color humans.
Yeah.
Again, I think that we're many, many moons away from them being like Hidden Strength. Let's go.
Yeah, it's probably one of the last decks they'll put on.
Yeah. But like you're gonna get a sense of like how things work.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not perfect testing, but it's better than nothing.
Mm-hmm.
So with that, you guys have decks to play. You have some draft strategies.
Yeah, I wish I knew that going into this weekend. Save myself a whole bunch of gold and gems.
Yeah, well, I learned about the aggressive decks by losing.
Yeah.
By being on the cool side, where I'm playing like 5-color nonsense and then just not being able to block for 3 turns and like losing the game.
Yeah.
So I didn't come up with that out of whole cloth. I was like, oh, why am I losing? Oh, they just played 3 falters that drew them a card. Oh,
Gotcha.
that's a problem.
Yeah.
Oh, I just took like 8 every turn for 3 turns and I died. Also, what was it? The Mr. Orfeo, the Boulder.
Mm-hmm.
I had a game. I was feeling good. And my opponent just goes, I was like, okay, I'll get in some damage here. Like, okay, looking at it, I'm going to take like 5 this turn because they had like 2 creatures or something. And they blitzed a Girder Goons and made it an 8-4.
Woo.
And I was like, oh, I'm taking 11. I'm dead. I was like, oh, where did that come from?
Yikes.
This is not okay. So, yeah. So with all of that, I think we have a show.
I think we have a show.
So if you want to get at us, tell us what you're playing in Explorer or any decks you want us to try. Get at us on our social medias or in Discord.
Yeah, all the links should be down in the description.
Mm-hmm.
Don't forget, if you're looking to pick up any singles, we would really appreciate it if you'd use our TCG Player affiliate link, tcg.casualtryhardmtg.com. Follow that link to get the TCG Player. Whatever you do after that, we will get credit for. Helps us out a lot. Also, if you guys like what we do and want to support us a little bit more directly, you can do so at patreon.com/CasualTryHardMTG. Whatever you can afford, we would appreciate. Patrons get access to our show notes. They get access to our pre-show, and you get put on my mailing list every couple months. I send you something out as a little thank you. So if you want to help us out, like what we do, you can support us there. We have our tournament coming up May 14th, Saturday, 7 p.m. East Coast time. It's going to be standard pauper, just like last time. Hopefully a little bit wider field this time. So make sure you sign up for that over at MTG Melee. And I think that's all I got. You got anything else? Oh, our YouTube channel where you can watch us. Yeah. We've been putting a lot of effort into our YouTube videos lately, so make sure you check those out.
You're seeing many of me drafting.
Yep.
The whole spectrum.
Yep. Yeah, so check us out on YouTube. CasualTryHardMTG on YouTube.
All right. And with that, we'll catch you on the internets.
We'll catch you on the internets.